Tonight on That's Dark.
The quiet and beloved queen whose brief reign brought both joy and sorrow, leaving a lasting impact on the Tudor dynasty. Follow us through the life of Jane Seymour. Hello, everybody.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Alyssa.
And today we're going to be doing another one of King Henry's wives, which is Jane Seymour.
Yes.
So after we do our little chit chat, we'll get back into that. And it was really nice because I got to take a lot of time and just really dig into who she was as a person, let alone, you know, him as a wife. Now, yeah, we'll get into it in a minute. So,
but yeah, I was doing the Anne Boleyn. I was clipping some of the videos from that episode to make TikToks out of, and good God, I had 17. Yeah. There's so many. There's so, like, these ladies are pretty iconic.
They really are.
I have to say.
Like, even Anne.
Yeah.
Like, no matter all the shit Anne has gotten, like, she was a bad bitch.
Yeah, she was.
She was like, I know how to make this king want me. Like, I know how to string this man along. I'm going to use my feminine wiles. And then but then, of course, she was a little hot-headed. I should look up her sign. They didn't know when she was born. Dang it. I was like, I want to know her sign, because I feel like she's a fire sign. That's what
or at least has that as her moon.
Something in here. Yeah, that's fiery, because she was very, like, fighting with the king, and most of these ladies, I will get into Anne of Cleves. She definitely was a very iconic. She's my absolute favorite. I cannot wait to do it on her. She is next when I do mine. But like most of the ladies knew how to play their part as the queen. Yep. There's a few of them who did not. Yes. And they are the ones that's like, I just felt like, you know, could you imagine? I don't know if I could go into a situation and be all, like, stay. Like, I could play the part for a couple days.
Right.
I don't know if I could
not
do it.
For a year. Not like Catherine.
No.
23 years? 23 years.
Letting him go and do all the ladies.
But I
like,
guess,
turning her head.
I guess because we're thinking of it as, like, a partnership.
It's not.
A romantic partnership. Yeah. And that's really not what the whole goal is in this instance, I guess. It's really to just run a country. Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah. So I guess when you look at it from that aspect, because it would be like a friend almost, you know?
And that might be Anne's demise. Yeah. Because she really was, like, looking at it as something more.
I think I agree with what you said, though. I don't think it was as much as that she was worried romantically, like that she loved him. I think she just knew what the other women were doing, and that just irked her. Like, it wasn't that she was in love with him, and like,
she knew her position.
Yeah, and she didn't want anyone else coming in and, you know, taking her spot. She did
it to Catherine.
Exactly.
Why? And it's just like that age-old saying, like, he cheated on me. Why wouldn't he? Or he cheated on his last girlfriend with me.
Right.
Why wouldn't he cheat on me?
Well, and that's in her head.
Yeah,
that's in her head, because
exactly.
she's like, I know how he plays things. Like, I know what he's going to do.
And like they, you know, like it was said, she was, you know, what we see here, she was very safe as long as Catherine was alive on that throne. Yep. But then she became not. I guess we're going to get into it, guys, because our chit chat's already about it.
It's already
about it. So we are going to talk about, and I have a picture of her. She's definitely
she looks like the typical English
rose. Yeah. Yes, and she actually has blonde hair, and she definitely was considered the typical English, very demure, very gentle.
Is beaut a good thing or a bad thing? Beaut?
I don't know.
I think it's a good thing. I think it means beautiful, right?
I think so.
Or is it bad?
I don't know.
Tell us in the comments.
I don't know. That one I don't know about.
I think it means beautiful, so I'm going to go and stick with that one.
Beaut. I don't know.
She's an English beaut.
She's an English beaut. So, Jane Seymour, the third wife of King Henry, and the only one that bore him a son.
Oh.
Yeah. So, daughter of Sir John Seymour and Marguerite Wentworth. I love the last name Wentworth. I don't know what it is.
J.G. Wentworth.
Now I don't love it. J.G. Wentworth.
877 cash now.
877 cash now. Nettlestead. I love that. I wish I was from Nettlestead.
That is the most UK name ever.
In Suffolk, yeah.
Suffolk.
Suffolk. I said it wrong. Was born at Wolf Hall in Savernake Forest, Wiltshire. I remember one time I have to deviate for a second. I was drunk. It was a long time ago. This is years, guys. And I was drunk in downtown Denver.
That sounds like a movie.
And my sister was like, because you know how I can do my little English accent. I don't think it's like amazing or anything, but I was drunk. She's like, you should pretend to be English all night long. So I was pretending to be English. I was drunk. And then the man from England started talking to me. And he was like, where are you from? And I said, oh, you know, I'm from Wiltshire. I was like, I couldn't think of anything else. And he said, Wiltshire? I said, Wiltshire, yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, well, at least your eyes are pretty. Because I just dropped the pretense. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not from there. I was just drunk and having a good time.
What did he say?
He said, well, at least your eyes are pretty. Oh. That's what he said. He goes, well, at least he was friendly with me, but he was like, at least your eyes are pretty. He's like, you might want to know the background.
Or don't talk to a British man when you.
He didn't tell me not to pretend to be British. That's the interesting part.
Well, that's what he gave you some good advice. He said maybe do your research, but also I'm gonna piggyback on that and don't talk to a British man.
I didn't know he was British. He heard me talking.
Leave.
And I know. I should have just been like crickets, and like walked away. Her exact date of birth, of course, is not known. But it is believed to have occurred between 1507 and 1508. But of course, not a month. So we can't decide what her zodiac sign was. Jane was the eldest of a large family of children. The Seymours were a well-respected gentry family who rose to prominence at the court of Henry VIII. So they were already, she didn't honestly, her dad had no reason to serve her up on a platter. He already had a good foothold in there, and we'll go into that here in a second. So he already was there for King Henry VII, I think, as well. So Jane's father, Sir John Seymour, served in King Henry VII's French campaign of 1513. Wait, is that correct? No, King Henry VIII's French campaign. Accompanied the king to the field of the cloth of gold in 1520. He was made a knight of the body and later a gentleman of the king's bedchamber, which was actually a really prominent thing. So it wasn't you get to be his knight, gentleman of his bedchamber. If you got to be inside the king's, just like ladies in waiting, right? If you got to be inside the queen's bedchambers, you've made it.
You're in.
You're in. Yeah. That's even better than being a knight. You think being a knight's amazing. No, he went up in it. And later, though her mother, Margaret Wentworth, Jane could claim a royal descent. Through her mother. One of her ancestors was Elizabeth Mortimer, the granddaughter of Lionel of Antwerp. I'm sorry, probably butchering that. Which was the Duke of Clarence, third surviving son of Edward III, and Philippa of Anhalt. Elizabeth Mortimer had married the famous Harry Hotspur Percy, who was killed at the Battle of Shrewsbury by King Henry VII. Hotspur and Elizabeth Mortimer were to become the grandparents of Jane's maternal grandfather, Sir Henry Wentworth. Now I keep hearing J.G. Wentworth. Margaret Wentworth was also the first cousin of Elizabeth, and Edmund Howard, the parents of Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. So she was the parents, she was friends with both of those people. So in her youth, Jane was betrothed to William Dormer, a son of the wealthy Sir Robert and Lady Dormer. Lady Dormer, though, felt that Jane's social status was not sufficient for her son, and the engagement was broken off, which was just kind of insane to me because her family sounds like they're in a really good place with the king. Yeah. Everything is relatable to the king. So this woman was like, no, you're not good. And broke it off. So I really wonder, why did she... Sometimes, because you actually can see it in, Bridgerton. They'll make a pretense as to why they break something off. But what really was behind the scenes of why they broke that off? Did he get somebody pregnant? Did they find someone with more money? Yep. There's always a reason. And it's not ever going to be in the public. It's never going to be
not. They're going to cover it up.
Yeah. So Jane Seymour had first come to court as a lady in waiting, as we all know, to Catherine of Aragon first. Oh. So she was there with Anne.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. And later fulfilled the same post to Anne Boleyn. So she was right there in the room with Anne Boleyn, watching all of it go down, which was interesting to me. She was of fair complexion and had a pointed chin and was of medium height. This was actually written down in a journal about how she looked. Modest and gentle nature. They described her as, she is of middle height and nobody thinks she has much beauty. Her complexion is so whitish that she may be called rather pale.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine having that written about you?
No.
I would be just like, die. I'd be like, oh. I'm not much a beauty.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to go away now.
Also, I want to talk about their paintings. If you notice, they all look very similar.
Yeah.
That's because of Holbein. And you're going to learn a lot more about Holbein when we go into Anne of Cleves. Oh. Because he painted her painting, which looked like the others. But she actually... So, what did Jane really look like?
No one knows.
Not really. I mean, there's like some paintings that are Holbein, but they're all very much of that same type of style.
That is crazy.
Isn't it? Yeah.
That's so crazy to think that most of these pictures that we know of people are just somebody's perception of them from a painting.
Exactly. I know.
That's wild.
They've tried to take these paintings and recreate somebody off of them.
Yeah.
You know, looking at the style, like what would have been her looks.
Yeah.
It's interesting to look at, but it's still not 100% like this is what this woman looked like. Yeah. Because what Holbein did is he absolutely, the ladies wanted Holbein. He was a famous painter. They wanted him because he painted them in the fashion of that time, like what the men found attractive, which was pointed. I don't know. It looks very pointed to me. Like,
it does.
Sort of like, little-lipped and pointed.
Yeah.
You know?
That's exactly what it looks like. It makes me think of like the Queen of Hearts or something.
Yeah.
From,
you know, like their lips are tiny and their eyes are large, you know? That's how they all look.
I don't know if you know, it's like kind of similar. Well, the one I'm thinking of is like a darker version, but you know the pictures of like Disney princesses and villains. It's like this style where they look like that. They're very tiny mouths, huge eyes. It's very dark though.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Try and post it up here if I can.
Yeah, and I'll try to find one of Jane where they've reconstructed her, but I really wanted to put the painting in of like, if you notice, my whole point was like almost like similar but different coloring of skin. You know, you can definitely see that. I think Catherine of Aragon, because she had some paintings before she came to England, I think you get to really see kind of a difference with her versus Anne and, you know, so so she's since never an acknowledged beauty. It is speculated that Jane's attraction for Henry VIII grew from the fact that she was, so basically he was attracted to her because she was the antithesis, the complete opposite of the dark, argumentative, and voluble Anne Boleyn. So Jane is demure. She's super like
prim and proper,
very gentle. King Henry goes to her house a lot to see the father. There was a real reason, but she's there. And at this time, he has Anne, who is raising a ruckus, who's like, who the fuck you sleeping with? What are you doing? Like, because she's so concerned about her position, but she's not being demure and gentle. No. She's like, only me.
Yeah. And so he wants to break away from that.
Yeah. So they believe that even though she was not considered, which I mean, fine, whatever, that, you know, they want to call her not attractive, that's fine. But they believe that was his attraction to her. Yeah. She was malleable. He could form her into what he needed his, you know. And I'm sure that, you know, he probably saw, I think they had a lot of children and a lot of sons. And he was thinking, because they didn't understand that it came from him, that, you know, oh, she'll give me a son. And she's very gentle and she's not going to be rude. Because Anne was very, like, in your face. So Henry tired of heated arguments with the strong-willed Anne, and he was drawn to the gentle and submissive Jane. Henry stayed at Wolf Hall in the September of 1535, and it may have been there that he first really noticed Jane. Henry's growing attraction for Jane soon was noticed by Anne Boleyn. And a rivalry developed between the Queen and Jane. When Anne noticed a jewel that Jane wore containing a portrait of the king, which, what did he give Anne? A bracelet containing the portrait of the king. Of himself in it. Which had been presented by, so King Henry gave Jane this little thing. She snatched it jealously from her neck. So Anne was absolutely, but I think, again, like you said, Anne's scared.
Yeah.
She's scared.
Yeah.
She knows what's happening.
She knows what's happening.
And there's no way out of this marriage except one way. And that, because of the fact that he already divorced.
Oh, so that's why so they couldn't divorce more than once? Is that what the deal is? Or?
He does, but I think that was her fear.
Oh, okay.
Like, how is he going to divorce me? Like, what grounds? Like, what's going to become my life?
Yeah, well,
I'm going to be cast out. Yeah, we sure do. Okay, so Queen Anne, as we learned, was not of a nature to bear such insults patiently, but Jane was in favor of King, so Anne's opinion helped no matter. So basically, even if Anne was over there, like, I think if she was fighting Jane, it just would have gotten on King Henry's even worse, like, okay, you're on my bad side.
Right.
Like, because essentially what was supposed to happen is when she saw that, she was supposed to just
look the other way.
I didn't see it, because he gave his mistresses these types of tokens. So it was supposed to be that she would just turn her face, not look, be like, okay, like, I'm cool with it, But I do also find it interesting, that little blip in here, because I see, when we read through this, I see little moments where Jane tries to kind of stand up.
Yep.
And I feel like that was one moment with Anne. She was like, hey, you know what? He's favoring me now. Yep. This is the way of the courts. Like,
right.
It wasn't like nowadays where it'd be like, Jane's a horrible person.
Right.
Like, that's just the way it was. The king favored you. You went along with it.
Yeah.
You did not sit there and be like Anne, who was like, no.
Right.
You just like, okay, he's favoring me. But during Henry VIII's courtship of Jane, she was advised by one of the leaders of the conservative Catholic faction at court, Sir Nicholas Carew, who coached her in the intricacies of religious politics. The recent death of Catherine of Aragon had rendered it possible for Henry to be rid of Anne without anticipating the prospect of being married to Catherine. So that's the other biggest thing. Like, if he would have been rid of Anne, there was some reason a prospect that he would have to just go back to being married to Catherine.
Oh.
Yeah. Ironically, while Catherine had lived, Anne remained safe in her position. Anne herself had long recognized the fact, stating, "She is my death and I am hers." And Anne seemed to really have understanding of the game she was playing. So Anne did. Anne completely understood. And then Anne was arrested and tried for a charge of treason. We already went through all that. For adultery with 5 men, including her own brother. A court controlled by Henry and presided over by Anne's uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, pronounced her guilty. We went through all that. So basically, she goes up to the Tower of London. Jane's by Henry's side the whole entire time. She's there because she has to be. Like, I don't pass judgment because there is nowhere else. That girl, when he put his sights on her, it was for her to keep herself safe and her family safe. And that's it. And so I think, personally, I'd be terrified.
Yeah. Yeah.
If King Henry puts his sights on me, I'd be like,
oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
Already killed one of them.
And you know damn well with my thing with guys that if I was in the ladies in waiting, I would not. I've been like, I'll be a pauper, thank you.
Yep.
I really, because I just have this, I just have this weird thing. I'm not saying I'm like beautiful, but guys are weird with me, and he probably would have got weird with me.
You have some crazy, crazy stories.
Yeah.
You have some crazy stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, when Liz started being around me all the time, she watched it happen.
She's like, what the hell?
She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I do. So I'd have been like, don't look at me. Don't look at me in my eyes. But
that would make them more attracted to you somehow.
You'd be like, I want the weird one in the corner. Oh, shit.
Yep.
Give me that weird one who seemingly seems like she's not sound mentally.
The one who seems she's not interested in me. I want her.
They take me out dragging. No!
Makes him want you even more. Sadly, that's probably the truth.
Oh, man. I would just, no court for me, thank you. And you, no court for you. No. Because the women would have you killed.
They would hate me. They would hate me.
They would.
Women hate me.
And I don't understand why, because you're just like the best person.
I don't know.
But they would. They'd be like, oh.
I think it's because I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I think it's because I just don't go up people's asses. And I think they don't like that. Like, it takes a lot for me to really,
Guys,
like, get to know you or, like, get comfortable around you.
I loved you from the first time I met you.
I felt the same way about you. But that's not normal for me.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's not.
Well, it's not normal for me either.
Okay, well, good.
It's not, but I did. I loved you from the first moment I met you.
I also know I am an avoidant, and I do push people away, and I see myself, I do it.
So they don't think you're trustworthy?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, if things, like, with you, I don't get annoyed. But, like, if someone gets on my nerves or I feel pressured or, like, I'm pinned in somewhere, man. I put those, my block goes.
So the women would have automatically pegged you because you wouldn't be all friends with them.
Right.
They'd be like, she's going to steal Henry.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Why I'm over there being dragged away by You're being dragged away by the women. She's going to steal Henry.
So true.
We would both have a demise in the court, the Tudor court.
Oh my God. It'd be bad.
It would be so bad. It'd be so bad. So Anne was beheaded at the Tower of London on 1536, May 19th. Henry and Jane were betrothed on the 20th of May, 1536, and married 10 days later on the 30th of May.
Wow.
Jane, who adopted the motto, bound to obey and serve, was actually never crowned. So never officially crowned. They didn't have the ceremony for her. But it's interesting that her motto was bound to obey and serve. Bound.
I hate that.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, that sounds sad.
That was her motto?
That was her motto.
Wow.
Once married to Henry, Jane attempted to mend the rift between him and himself. This is really lovely. So he basically cast Mary out, which is Catherine of Aragon's daughter. Yeah. He said, you're out. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. I divorced your mom. Jane did everything and brought Mary back into the courts and mended their relationship and got Mary back into her rightful place of where she was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Jane involved herself in state affairs only once. So basically she put all her time into Mary. Mary grew very fond of her. Mm-hmm. Really loved Jane, looked at her as a mother figure, really, because her mom she had her mom, but her mom's now passed away. Put Mary back in place where she's supposed to be. And that in turn, in the future, gets Mary to be queen for a short amount of time. Nice. Unfortunately, she has to die from a tumor, but, if it wasn't for Jane, I don't know if that would have been her outcome. Yeah. So yay on Jane for that one. But Jane really didn't involve herself into Henry's politics. She stayed and did that queen thing. She was like, just did whatever the queens, were going to do during that time. Did the luncheons, the affairs. I say affairs, I mean like the big to get togethers, like the presenting, the sociable thing, right? She was just kind of she was like the perfect queen. Right. Wasn't Anne. She was absolutely
the opposite.
Complete antithesis of Anne. Mm-hmm. But so she did involve herself in a state affairs only once. In 1536, when she asked for clemency for the participants in the pilgrimage of Grace Rebellion, her husband reacted. And first, I'm not going to tell you his reaction. I'm going to tell you what the pilgrimage of Grace was. On December 2nd, a group of men gathered at Pontefract in Yorkshire to produce a list of grievances against King Henry VIII and his policies. These men were the representatives of a massive number of rebels who had participated in the Pilgrimage of Grace, a revolt of some 30,000 which had the potential to seriously threaten the king's grasp on the throne. And for 1537, after 7 months of marriage, Jane announced herself... Oh, sorry. No, ignore that. Go back. So I start going on. So it was Catholics. Mm-hmm. So they were trying to bring Catholicism, back to England as the head of the crown, not Protestants. So that's what it was. So her family was not Protestant. They were Catholic. And so she tried to basically go to him and say, please have mercy on them. Yeah. Please, for them. Only he's done it once. Her response was, by reminding her of the fate of other queens that had meddled in his affairs. So his response was, yeah, I can kill you, essentially. Oh, or divorce you, or you'll be gone. Because I really feel like at this point, King Henry has disposed of him 2 wives.
Yeah.
why can't he dispose more?
Right.
Like, I feel like at this point, he's like, oh, yeah, I can have what I want. And if it doesn't fit my needs, then I can have them leave.
Now, what was his age around this time, would you say?
He was
40s.
40s, I think, or 50s. Yeah.
Probably
40s.
50s would make sense because he was married to Catherine for 23 years.
23 years. Yeah, he was young. When he married Catherine, he was really young.
They were like 17,
so I would say like late 40s, 50s. I can look up specifically and we can put that in there. But he was not a young man.
Yeah.
No, but Jane would have been young. She would not have. She had to be, his wives would absolutely be of childbearing age. And they thought the younger the better for that, not the older.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as young as you can get them. So, I mean, they don't have Jane's exact age, but I'm guessing she's probably roughly like 17, 16 to 18. Like, yeah, like as soon as their fluxes began, they were, you know, a lot of them got betrothed, you know, before their fluxes began, but they did have a thing where they weren't touching them until they were of age to bear children. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, in early 1537, after 7 months of marriage, Jane announced herself pregnant. Great care was taken throughout the pregnancy, and the king was to prove himself indulgent to her every whim. So, he made sure she had everything. Throughout the last months of Jane's pregnancy, churches across the courtyard prayed for the queen's safe delivery. And then, after a difficult and protracted labor, Jane fulfilled the first duty of a queen and gave birth to a son, the future Edward the 7th on 12th of October, 1537 at Hampton Court Palace. Interesting to know his birthday because he was a future king. Edward's christening in the Chapel Royal at Hampton Court was long and elaborate ceremony followed by a grand reception for nearly 400 guests. His arrival on the vigil of St. Edward, the confessor decided the prince's name, and his elder sister Mary stood as the child's godmother. So Mary was his. So the confessor, whoever this was, decided his name, and then Mary was the godmother to him. His other sister Elizabeth also took part in this whole ceremony. So Elizabeth is Anne's daughter. And honestly, there is a point in time where she's cast away as being basically a bastard because he decided, you'll find out when you get into some of the other wives, you know, things. So Jane also participated, although she had to be carried into the chapel on a portable bed. So Jane had him on 1537. And they were married on May of 1536. And she had him on October. So not even, I think it's like a little over a year. Yeah. But that's when she had him. Right. So she was pregnant quickly.
Right.
You know, she didn't have, so that's what they were saying. She didn't get to be crowned because Jane was never to see her son grow up. She contracted puerperal fever or childbirth fever, infection of the uterus following childbirth, and died in her sleep 12 days later on October 24th. So what that is typically what that means is back then they wouldn't have delivered, the placenta wouldn't have fully delivered. So it'd be up her. She would get an infection. And so that's why she was never crowned. She gave him his son, right? But she died.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Henry VIII is reported to have mourned the loss of his third wife. He wore black for 3 months and was said to fall into a depression. She was accorded a magnificent state funeral at which Princess Mary, Henry's elder daughter, who Jane had done so much for her to reconcile with her father, acted as the chief mourner. So she was like the head of the procession. And there's lots of accounts where she was actually very upset that Jane died. You know, she died at 28.
Oh,
so she wasn't as young.
Okay,
as
I was gonna say.
So but she was definitely young when she started because she was waiting and waiting for Catherine. And yeah. But she was 28. She died at 28 to King Henry, and she was only married to King Henry for 18 months.
Wow.
But
that's not what I expected.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So now I'm going to continue on about her really fast because there's a few things that I want to put out there. So we did divorce, we did died, and we did beheaded, and now we have died.
Yep.
So there's lots of things about Jane Queen Jane. I'm going to call her Queen Jane because I think she deserves that. Like who she was as a person. And unfortunately, little was documented about her. But I just felt like when you read through the different things that she did, like making sure Mary was put, she didn't have to do that. She didn't have to champion Catherine's daughter. But I also wonder, was she friends with Catherine? She was her lady in waiting. Yep. She never went with King Henry ever during that time. Also, interesting fact, she refused to sleep with him as a mistress. But she did it in the fact that she was very much like, I'm sorry, I'm a virgin.
Right.
This is against my beliefs. I cannot do this. So it wasn't like Anne, like, hey, hey, hey. Like she, Anne was like shaking it, like, I'm hot. You want me? Too bad. She was more like, I can't. This
is my belief.
I want to be married one day. Right. I want to have a family one day, kind of thing. Right. So she basically told him no. I think, again, spurred him on. He was like, oh, she's so wife-like. She's perfect. She hasn't been with other men. Like, she's so perfect, right? So the other thing that has been said about King Henry and Jane is they said that this is the love of his life. I disagree. And I'm going to tell you why. So I'm going to tell you why they say this was the love of his life. Because when he dies, he asks to be buried next to her instead of any of his other wives. Why I think, because I don't think this was the love of his life. I don't know if King Henry could. I think King Henry had lots of love of his life. Right. Like I think he loves that initial chase.
Yes.
But if you notice, she only had 18 months with him. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
So that whole initial chase was still there, and she gave him a son.
Right.
So when she died, not because of what would have happened if she survived. What would have happened?
That's what I was going to say. As sad as it is, it's probably for the better for her because who knows what the hell he would have done.
What would have happened?
Right.
Yeah. Would he have grown tired of her?
Yes.
Would he would have. Exactly. Yeah. And now he's got 2 down that he got rid of. Why couldn't he get rid of her? So I think, and I read some other things that agreed with what I was thinking. I think because he died before his son died, because his son does die.
Oh my God.
He was a sickly child. He does take throne. Edward does take throne for a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. But King Henry dies before his son. Mm-hmm. So I think he got buried next to the woman that bore his future king.
Probably.
That's what I think.
More than
I don't think it was a great love story. I would love to say that it was, but I don't think it was. I think this was a story of a woman who got her eye caught, like the King Henry's eye was caught on her. She played the part as best as she could, and she did an excellent job, She gave him a son, even though he passed away, but King Henry didn't know that, And so I think for him it was respect.
Yeah.
Like he respected her, and he didn't have time to have that fizzle out. There was no time for it to fizzle out.
He didn't get bored of her.
No.
He was in the middle of it. High. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
here's this woman that he's already, because I do think he had a love addiction problem.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Like he loved that initial, right? So here he is. He's got this woman. He's like in that still. She gives him a son.
Now it's even more intensified.
Oh, this is blessed by God. This is 100% blessed by God. Oh my God. This is everything.
Yeah.
So when she dies from birthing him a son, I think he truly did mourn her. I think he very much mourned her. But I think he mourned her because of the person that she was. I think, and the fact of the person that he decided in his, she was the paragon.
Yes.
And so that's what I think it was. I do not think it was true love.
No.
But that's the story of Jane.
That's sad.
I know, and there's not a ton in about her as far as her life before King Henry, but I just thought with the things she did, and that not stepping in except to beg for leniency on these Catholics, that were trying to bring it back up, or with Mary, again, didn't have to do that. She didn't have to.
Yeah.
But she did it. And I just thought that really spoke of who she was.
Absolutely.
So I think she was a great person, a good person. It makes me I know this is weird because she's so long ago. It makes me sad she didn't get to see her son.
I know.
Makes me sad she only got him for 2 weeks and didn't get to see him grow. But at the same time, he passed away. So that would have been a great pain for her.
Yeah.
And then where would she have been? I don't know. Because King Henry could have easily created lies about her. Decided all these things that he decided because he didn't want to be married to her anymore.
Right. Yeah, he absolutely would have.
So, yeah. That is Queen Jane, who gave him his only heir that did survive until he died.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, sad. These are just crazy. So there's 3 more.
There's 3 more. This. So this old man Henry.
Old man Henry.
3 more wives coming into play.
Crazy.
Oh, wait till you hear Catherine of Howard.
Next?
No, Anna Cleves is next,
Okay.
and I love her. Right. Anna Cleves is a badass woman. She's badass. She has her own kingdom. That's all I'm gonna say. She's badass. Okay. Catherine of Howard. She's a little
cuckoo.
Yeah, she was a little promiscuous and didn't understand. She was kind of promiscuous from the get-go in her life, and didn't understand that, you'll find out.
Oh boy.
That's her other beheaded. So, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm assuming she also got murdered.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But honestly, it was not that it was okay that she got murdered, but her crimes were legit.
Okay. So there was a reason for this one. Yeah. They were not made up.
Yeah. But anyways, I love talking about this time period and these women, and I think that like I said many times, each one should have their story heard. At least what story you can grab from what's in history, Right. They weren't just his wives. Yeah. They had so much more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You put like a life to them.
Yeah.
I like that. So that's cool. Well, that was fun, and I can't wait. I'm going to be doing Gypsy Rose for the next episode. I'll go into what she did, like a little backstory, but I haven't figured out where I want to go exactly with the video yet.
I saw a TikTok of her recently, and I just think that she's sweet. I don't think any of it's pretend. I think she's a sweet person. Right. Has a kind heart. Yep. And she was putting I don't want to take anything that you can.
I was going to say we'll talk about all of this. Yeah, we'll talk about all this in the next one. But yeah, I'm excited because I'm happy for her. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.